Ah,
And we're live.
live.
Hello, Ned.
Hello, Nate.
Okay, so this week we have a lot of crazy stuff going on, and I figure we may as well just kind of get started. So I think without a doubt, the first thing we should talk about, to be positive, as we talked about beforehand, and you said, is Google Play Store.
Woohoo.
Yes, absolute 100 woohoo. So, for those of you who are just tuning in and haven't been paying attention to the news this week, or have been completely stuck in E3 world, which honestly has partly been my life too. This week, Kodi got shared finally publicly and published on the Google Play Store. Let's see if I can open up that window there. Yeah, there it is. So, Kodi, now available as of June 14th. This particular version that's available on the Play Store is Beta 2, which we just published, on Sunday.
Yeah.
And the reason, a couple people have been asking why we went with Beta 2 instead of going with the 14.2, the standard
stable.
Yeah. And I think basically the simplest reason is 14.2 is not as stable as our current Beta 2, at least for Android.
Yeah. Lots of great Android things in version 15.
Yeah, pretty much exactly. So the two kind of hardware devices we're really focusing on with this particular Android release, and this isn't actually true because it also works with a lot of AM Logic things, but the two that a lot of the testing has been done on is the Nexus player, the Google Nexus player, and the Android TV, the NVIDIA Shield Android TV, both of which, oh shoot, I don't know. Can the Nexus player do 4K?
I don't think so.
Okay, so both of which are pretty modern and can do a lot of really cool things, including things sometimes like 4K or HEVC. For those of you last week who were waiting for us to talk, you got to see a nice video where I kind of walked through the Android TV. It's a pretty cool device, and I need to talk to the NVIDIA people about getting Ned one now.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. That's right, Ned. You gotta keep your eyes open for that if it happens.
We get some cool tips on the wiki for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're pretty pumped about this. We're pretty excited that it's finally on Google Play. In fact, here's another thing I want to share. This picture is actually a little old now. Go back here. This is the graph that we can see in the background for downloads of Kodi on the Google Play Store from a day or two ago. As you can see, during the beta process, it was, there were not a lot of downloads. Then it went public, and they absolutely exploded. Mm-hmm. It looks like that chart. That chart they show demonstrating global warming, where it's like nothing for like a million years, and then the last 100 years it went insane.
Yeah,
it's basically that, but in terms of Kodi usage.
Killing the planet with Kodi.
That's right. That is what we're doing. Every install of Kodi brings us one step closer to Armageddon. So you kids, you better download now and better download fast. Yeah, it's pretty great. So that's Kodi on the Google Play Store. I'm not sure if there's much more we can talk about with that. Do you have anything else?
It's got a bunch of kind of last minute additions, I think, right? Beta 2 does for I think you already mentioned 4K, but the automatic refresh rate switching now for many Android boxes.
Yes, that's true. It does have that, though. Unless my understanding is that's still sort of wishy-washy, just because Android itself, until Android M, which is the next one coming out, Android itself doesn't have any kind of way of handling refresh rate switching. So what we've got working right now sort of works on some boxes and sort of doesn't work on others. So if you can handle not having refresh rate switching turned on, that's probably honestly the more ideal way to go at the moment. But if you're one of those people who's as crazy about video refresh rate as some audio people are about HD audio, then this is certainly something worth looking into at the moment. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it only covers 24p, right? It doesn't cover that weird American 23 point whatever p.
I think I don't know. It depends on the box, because some specific manufacturers have like, basically Kodi will try to switch to the closest thing that Android makes available. Yeah. So if your box provider or SoC has something up their sleeves for that, then in theory, I think it'll try to do that. Kodi will try to at least make it as accurate as possible. We can't, Kodi can't exactly request the exact refresh rate, but it will request the most accurate one.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. Are you beeping or is that me? Oh, I think that's me.
Oh, I'm not beeping, but my chair is making farting noises. So.
Oh yeah, that could be what it is too. I took my niece to the the park the other day, and there's a slide that you go down there that has like a set of bumps in the middle that absolutely sounds like farting noises. She thought it was the best thing on the planet.
Farts are awesome.
Farts are pretty funny. Wow, I got really sidetracked there. So refresh rate switching, HEVC is now supported on chipsets that support it. 4K is supported, and evidently those are different things. There are like 1,000 different words that all sound the same to me now that are causing problems in my mind. For example, the NVIDIA Shield Android TV supports H.265, which is the new standard, also called HEVC, 10-bit support. But it does not support H.264, which has been the standard all this time, 10-bit support. It only supports 8-bit on that.
Yeah, well, the 10-bit equivalent on H.264 was never meant as a consumer standard. It was some people started encoding in it, but it's a profile that was really only meant for like in-house editing, stuff like that. So none of the hardware, when people make hardware video acceleration, they tend to only include consumer standards to save money, and there's various licensing and other things to account for. But since H.265, our high efficiency video codec, is the new one of the future, there are actual televisions that'll come out. If they're not out now, they'll eventually come out, that are actually 10-bit color depth, and actually are trying to be a little future proof. So it's not just 1 year of a new codec. So they actually have a 10-bit color depth. It's not quite comparable though, but it is one of those confusing things where it's like, okay, yeah, 10-bit. When someone says 10-bit, find out what they're talking about. But hopefully, with H.265, it's going to be the better codec. So hopefully it'll be adopted somewhat quickly, and you won't even have to worry about it.
Yeah, that was the 10-bit that everyone was talking about for the past year or so. I feel like it was very much a ugly stepchild of video encoding. Like before it, H.264 worked great. People were trying to get smaller video sizes in a period of time when H.265 didn't exist yet, and so they did this method instead. Now that H.265 exists, I feel like there's almost no reason to go back to the 10-bit method.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So for all of those anime lovers out there who are still stuck on 10-bit, suggest to people that they start encoding in H.265 because that's at least a standard that's really going to be supported in the future. And even better, perhaps just install the Crunchyroll add-on in Kodi because, frankly, it's probably better than anything you're getting anywhere else. From what I understand, Crunchyroll might be the greatest boon to anime on the planet. I don't use it because I don't really watch anime, but I hear good things.
Yeah, it's all right.
Okay, well, that's all right. Which I mean, that's good enough for me. I'm thinking about I keep hearing about Crunchyroll from other podcasts I listen to, and the show that I think I'm going to have to start watching because people keep talking about it is Sword Art Online. Are you familiar with this at all?
It's kind of you either like it or you despise it with every fiber of your being.
Oh, really?
Well, kind of. On the surface, it's kind of a run-of-the-mill, at least for anime standards, plot about people getting trapped in a video game. And it starts out all right, it's watchable, and then it starts going kind of jumping the sharkish kind of a thing, like right after like season or episode 13, I think, and just gets into what they like to call Gary Stew territory. I don't know if you've ever heard of the term Gary Stew.
No,
have you ever heard the term Gary Stew? Well, there's a Mary Sue, which is like a flawless female character, like the writer has the idea of the ultimate woman and writes it, and she's this, happy and cheery. Well, that's Gary Stew is the male equivalent of that, and so the lead character kind of eventually becomes perfect, and now it becomes harder to identify. It's honestly, it's totally watchable, but it kind of grinded on a lot of people's nerves.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
There's a book series I read a while ago that they turned into a TV series that didn't last very long, called you know what? There's no way I'm going to remember what it was called. It was something about a guy who had a sword. The Last Sword Keeper. No, that's wrong. The main character's name was Richard Rawl. That's kind of all I remember about it. Hey, if you're watching this video and you remember or have ever heard of this video, feel free to mention in the comments what it's called, and then I'll call you out for it. Maybe I should hit refresh to do that. It was really good story, but eventually he becomes super powerful, and there's kind of a lot of bits about rape or something, which I didn't really. That was pretty weird to me. Speaking of the comments,
Sword of Truth.
Sword of Truth. That's it exactly. Yeah, it was a really good first and second book, and a really freaking terrible third and fourth book. And I think there are more that I just never bothered reading. Speaking of comments, I'm looking at the YouTube comments now. We have our first one from Elizabeth Navarro. How about the Minix boxes? That's a good question, Ned. You've got one. I actually have one too, but I never plugged it in because I don't have a power adapter for it.
Actually, I don't.
You don't have a Minix box?
No, I'm somewhat familiar with them though, and of like a lot of the early brands that tried to capitalize on Kodi's popularity, they're one of the better ones as far as actually giving good support. They've been a little more expensive than the other ones. So they're not always talked about, because usually when people think Android boxes and Kodi, they try to go, dirt cheap. Yeah. But they've had really good support. They've worked with Koying, our head Android developer, a lot, and got some stuff really in there early on. And this is all before they became a sponsor of us. Which they've been cool for a really long time. Yeah. So they're a little more expensive, but that's often comes down to because they're giving support and they're properly licensing things. So it's they're good stuff. We don't really recommend any particular brand, but I don't think anyone who bought their product would be disappointed.
Yeah, that's true. Are they? I think the company I was thinking of was is it WeTech? Who? Yeah, it was WeTech. They were the ones who gave like the whole team a box.
Oh,
each.
yes.
Okay.
Is that the one you have that you don't have the adapter for?
That's the one I don't have the adapter for. my apologies to both Minix and WeTech for confusing you both. That's your fault though for having a 5-letter names. So do you know? So what kind of abilities does the WeTech box? Or excuse me, the Minix box have? Can it do? Is it more your standard just video player with 1080p and all that stuff?
I think they've got one with one of the newer Logic chips out.
Oh, the S805, or maybe it might be even more recent than that. The 4K one.
Yeah, I think it is. They've got. For a long time, they did rock chip-based boxes. I know they have an Amlogic one, and they even have an Intel-based one, I think. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, they got a bunch of them. Yeah, that one, their top-of-the-line guy there says it works with 4K and HEVC. So all those enhancements that are now in Google Play should also apply if you are using a Mini X or Min-X or however that's pronounced. And if it doesn't, let us know, because then we'll get on that, because it should work. They're very good about firmware support, and yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. They sound pretty good. So, yeah, I guess obviously no official recommendations, but that's a pretty good box. Wait, what was your name again? Elizabeth, if you're interested in going down that route. Nope, no more additional comments. I guess now that they know that we already know the Sword of Truth series, we don't need them. Oh, you viewers. Okay, so that's the first thing. Google Play, Android, there are a lot of cool new things going on there. Should we get into the slightly less happy and pleasant news?
Sure.
Okay, so last Thursday, I think it was, I kind of forget the exact date, somewhere around last Thursday, an individual from AppleFireTVNews.com.
Oh, Amazon Fire TV News.
Oh, yep. Sorry, Amazon. They both start with A. I'm sure you can see how I might make that mistake. Amazon Fire TV News contacted us and pointed out that we didn't seem to be on Amazon's Play Store. Amazon's App Store anymore.
Yeah, like at all.
At all.
We've never been on it for the Fire TV or Stick,
right.
But we were on the basic store, which if you never used it before, obviously Amazon's tablets and phones use it, and you can also install it onto other Android devices. And that's the first step towards getting it on the Fire TV as well. So that's kind of, the process we were in at the time, and then it was just gone.
Yeah, it's actually, all those stores have similar approval processes that way. With Google Play, as I understand it, we're on Android TV, the Android TV section of the Google Play Store right now. But that was possible because we went through that whole process before we got out of our own little mini beta. So it was pretty easy. We just went straight from publish to already on that store. With Amazon, we weren't quite able to go down that route because they don't have quite the same process.
Yeah,
but
they don't even document it really to most people. It's kind of a mystery.
Yeah. So possibly useful here. Backing up maybe 6 months. It was a long time ago. We got an email from one of their business dev guys or app dev or whatever. I'm not sure what exactly his title is.
It's like a liaison to like developers or something like that.
Right, exactly. And the email was basically, we see you're interested in being in the store. How can we help you get through the whole process? Which at the time we thought was a great sign. It seemed like we were going down the road that we needed to go down. I mean, timing wise, it was crazy because we fairly recently already had introduction with one of the people from Android TV saying basically the same thing. We want to work with you to get this going. So we replied to him, and it was just silence after that. Like, we didn't hear anything at all. The extent of what we heard from that point forward is, I guess somebody, I don't remember who, I think it was just a user, contacted them about an issue they were having with Kodi, and the person on the other end said that they couldn't help them. This was 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah, they called up like a phone support.
Yeah,
for Amazon.
Yeah, and they said they couldn't help them because Kodi was a piracy service, which I think at the time we immediately emailed our guy who had contacted us to see what was going on, because we didn't frankly know what was going on, and we didn't hear back. And so finally, once the guy from Amazon Fire TV, I want to get his name because he's a pretty cool guy. Shoot, I'm probably not going to be able to get his name. Elias. So Elias from Amazon Fire TV contacted us about this. We emailed them. We asked them what was going on, and then we got the email that's kind of made the rounds now. That had the really fantastic phrase: "In reviewing your app, we determined that it can be used to facilitate the piracy or illegal downloading of content. Any facilitation of piracy or illegal downloads is not allowed in our program. Please do not resubmit this app," which might be my favorite part of the whole thing. Please do not resubmit this app. Which
I think was followed by "ask me if you have any questions," which was kind of like, do not resubmit this app is almost like, please never talk to me again. But if you have any questions about never talking to me again, please ask.
Yeah, that's the one thing you're allowed to ask me about. So we replied and we said, we thought this was crazy, because here's our position, and we've kind of made this position clear for a long time. It's been at least 2 or 3 years that we've been making this push and this claim, and it's frustrating without a doubt that it's not being heard by everybody, evidently. At the end of the day, what Kodi is a video player and a music player, even though I never use it for music, and a picture player. The extent to which add-ons exist just means that it can play content that's not just local media. So for example, we have a YouTube app that we have in our add-on system. But at the end of the day, really all it is a media player. And the fact that our being a media player means that we can facilitate piracy or illegal downloading. I mean, if you take that to its logical conclusion, that means that any application that runs in the Amazon Appstore that can, and I don't totally know what this means, but my assumption is that if it can play content from an online source, or if it can play content from a local source that might have a piracy background, then it would meet that definition, right? Is that how you read it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's some little video players on there, VLCs on there. You can load streams straight up in the VLC. Mm-hmm. And I even think, I'm not sure if it's actually, is it on the store? I think they got a browser. I think Opera is on there now.
Yeah. And here's the important thing. This is on the Amazon Fire store itself. It's not just the Amazon Fire TV store we're talking about here, which means that any browser on the Amazon Fire store technically has this problem, doesn't it?
Yeah, potentially. Anything that has any kind of media on it that is able to access other media after you've downloaded it.
Right. So it's so wildly frustrating I'm hesitant to mention other media players because I don't want to throw them under the bus. But as far as I can tell, it basically affects literally all of us, right? It's not just Kodi or VLC or MX Player or even the granddaddy of them all that Amazon pushes so hard, Plex. They all have this ability. And
on your box right there, Plex.
Yeah, yeah, they
And I'm
all
sure
have this ability, and they all have an equal ability to do this. So it's frustrating that somehow our software got singled out as the bad one.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I don't know what to do about it.
And we
The
understand that, like, there's been a bit of a reputation about it, like, because of various sellers. And it's one of those things where it's like, we're frustrated with Amazon because we feel like Amazon as a technology company should know better.
Yeah,
But at the same time, we also know the reputation that Kodi and in the past XBMC has gotten. But at least I don't really understand why. See, I always feel that Kodi's been agnostic. If Kodi makes using video easier to use, if it makes it easier to view and organize your local or your legal content versus pirated content, there's nothing in the code that distinguishes between those two types.
right.
So it's kind of like even if because we consider ourselves fairly neutral, we're not going to shun it. We don't promote it, but we're also not going to, take a moral stance on it. It is what it is. It's your decision, but we're no more guilty than your television.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to put it. And so that all being the case, I think the thing out of all of this that's the most frustrating is the fact that after they kicked us off the App Store, you could do a simple search in their regular Amazon store for XBMC or Kodi, and you would see a dozen boxes. And people have done this. I forget. There are a couple different websites that did exactly this and got a screenshot. They took a picture of all of the machines out there that don't have any kind of problem promoting this piracy idea behind their idea of what Kodi is, we got kicked off the App Store, but those guys are still selling all of this piracy add-on stuff pre-installed on their boxes.
Yeah. So basically, we're talking about, because for those, I don't know why you'd be watching this if you didn't already know, but if you don't happen to know, all the add-ons that would access pirated content are kind of like, your Firefox extensions that are not in Firefox's little showcase. Like you would, it's like an app you'd have to go out of your way to install. So it's usually, and it's the same thing with Kodi. Like Kodi itself, as it appeared on the Amazon App Store, was just Kodi. It wasn't like anything else. You had to go out of your way. Where was I going with this?
The difficulty in actually installing these piracy add-ons.
So Kodi itself, like you have to go out of your way. You have to go on add a third-party add-on repository, which we don't control. We don't try to control because it's your decision. It's open source software. That's you have the freedom to do what you want. That's the spirit of open source. Yeah. So these other vendors on Amazon and eBay and the various other places, they market themselves as being already set up, fully loaded, and they've got all the add-ons on there already set up, with showing all the various TV shows, and you take it out of the box, you plug it in, and it's all set up. And that really hurts our reputation, because at least when someone has to manually install an add-on or even download a file, that helps the user to understand that this is something that I'm doing, that it's not something that the Kodi brand is providing. Yeah. Because now there's a lot of people who legitimately do not understand that Kodi can be used for other things. Like it's just crazy to them that like it didn't even occur in their mind that there's other uses for it. And that's in very large part to all these vendors that are selling Kodi with all the add-ons pre-installed. and
on the Amazon store.
on Amazon. Which, I mean, you know, it's not like Amazon directly selling them. Amazon obviously does a whole bunch of business with the third parties and stuff. But I mean, you can get these boxes even through Amazon Prime, which means they're being stocked.
They're being shipped from an Amazon warehouse.
Yes, and it's and I'm pretty sure we've even tried at least at some level to figure out what we can do to report those guys, because it's violating not only our trademark but Amazon's own terms of service.
Yeah.
And Amazon has been like really, like, it's not made it easy, and yet they made it very easy to get kicked off their App Store. So
yeah. And so I want to go back to a post we made a couple days ago that I think at the time it was more emotional than anything, and I think people took it the wrong way. So a post we made on Facebook a few days ago is, thank you to all who made Kodi look like a piracy only application. And I think a lot of users who really started out thinking it was a piracy only application took offense to that because they thought we were talking about them. And it's not really the case at all. The groups we were talking about are these sellers who literally say, this is what Kodi is for.
Did you have a good idea there?
Yes, I did. Also, I may have gotten a text. But yeah, it's the people we're so frustrated with are the people who are making money convincing people that Kodi is for this and not everything else it can do.
Yeah. I mean, like, no doubt every so often, if you've ever talked to us on the forums or Reddit or some other places, so we do obviously eventually show some frustration sometimes, but really the frustration isn't with the users, because it's to a point where you can't blame them for getting the wrong idea. It's
right.
these sellers who are, you know, they have no motivation to separate it, but because it makes it easier for them to sell their box, to have everything all loaded up like that, even though it makes it look like we're providing content, like we're a video service when we're a video player.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. So we've talked about what we can do about this, and there are a couple things that we're looking at, and these are things that we've had planned out for a long time. The number one thing is finally finishing our trademark situation, because once we do that, it'll be a lot easier to say to people, here's our registered trademark number. Can you please take these things off of your store? That'll be easily issue number one taken care of. Other things that we're talking about doing are possibly providing a warning for when you install an add-on that's not part of our repo. And I don't know, I mean, no one's actually made the code to do that yet. It's just an idea that's been floating around. But it's at no point do we have any plans of actually making it impossible to install these add-ons, because, as always, our opinion is that you should be able to do whatever you want with the software. The thing is, we're worried that a lot of people don't know what they're doing with the software and aren't aware of what's happening when they install these repos. So we'd like to get a warning out there just so people can know this is what this repository may contain, and this is the kind of thing that may result from this repository. Probably the worst moment in all of this, other than getting rejected from the Amazon store, was, I think it happened this summer, but it might have been even earlier. There were two competing repositories of piracy add-ons, which we find out about because people ask us why everything's broken in the forum. Yeah. There were two competing add-on repositories, and one of them uploaded an add-on to their repository, which deleted all the add-ons from the other repository.
Yeah. They basically declared war on each other.
Yeah, and I mean, when that happens to a user and they are thinking that they're using the official Kodi repository, that's horrible for us, for them, for everybody.
Yeah, it could even be, you know, forget the piracy element. Just doing that in general, even if these were legitimate add-ons, you know, is a risk that we'd want to warn people about.
Yeah,
you know, because
It's a dangerous thing, man. Installing those other repos, if you don't trust them, they can do a lot of crazy stuff to your box.
Yeah. Kodi is not it's not like a sandbox environment like a lot of other applications are. So, any add-on that you install, and that is obviously something we're looking to improve in the future, but for the time being, any add-on you install basically has all the same privileges as the main Kodi application. It can read all the files on the network. It can, in some cases, delete files. It can, usually there's no malicious intent, but it's a possibility. So treat it as you would an actual application, and download from trusted sources, and use caution.
Treat it like you would anything you would download from something like what's the big, like the Pirate Bay. I mean, that's, if you download an application from the Pirate Bay, you better trust the hell out of the person who uploaded that application, because otherwise you're opening yourself up to a world of hurt. And that's basically the same thing we're dealing with here with these third-party repositories. If you trust them, then you can use them, but be aware that they can do all kinds of things to your computer without your knowing anything about it.
Yeah. And that's not to say that any of like, we're not saying anyone would want to do that, or any of those groups want to do that.
Right, even aside from when they were at war with each other.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. Which they got a lot of flack for.
Yeah.
But even the most, well-intentioned repo can sometimes cause issues. So it's not, it doesn't even have to be malicious. It just, be careful. Don't be all willy-nilly and install every possible repository. And even there, just, there's a lot of experimental repositories that our add-on developers use just to tinker with things that can break things and make things frustrating. So it doesn't even have to be a doomsday scenario. Just, install what you use, and when things start acting weird, that's the first place to look and see if there's a conflict there or anything like that.
Yep. Okay, so we have some more comments on the thread. Let's see if there's anything I can pull out of that. One person asked, if you're questioning piracy, are there any plans to alter the way plugins work? Nope. Like we said, if you can do whatever you want with your content. This is our stance from the get-go. You can do whatever you want. Just don't wrap our name up in it.
Yeah. That's kind of the whole thing with why we talk about trademark protection. That's why trademark protection exists, is and it's not just for intentional damage, but even unintentional damage, is to prevent confusion about what a brand is for, and make sure we don't get into any issues or trouble ourselves over that. And it's almost kind of a little bit of a good thing in a way that this has happened with the Amazon store, because no offense to Amazon, but it is the lesser store compared to other ones such as Google or Steam or any other place that we may eventually show up in. Right. But it shows people that because we've been saying this for a long time. It's not just about getting a lawsuit or anything, because it is kind of unlikely that it would get that far. But it still makes it really hard for us just to do normal things, like develop the software.
Yeah.
And
like
have sponsors. And
here's an example that I just popped into my head. So imagine for a second, 10 years ago, everyone said, you know what I love about Google? The way it makes it so easy to find piracy. I love Google's ability to search for pirated stuff. That's all I use it for. I don't even bother searching on the Pirate Bay. I use Google.
You could actually even go further than that, because YouTube for a long time was known directly for TV shows and movies that people were uploading when in the early years before Google bought YouTube. It was kind of like people like, oh yeah, sure, you can upload your own videos, but really, who does that?
Yeah.
And it was like, nowadays YouTube really is vast majority original content and licensed content,
and it's great content. At this point in my life, I probably watch more YouTube original content than anything else in any given week.
There's a lot of hamsters and cats out there that just
so many. And I'll be honest, I'm one of those people who watches people play video games. I have to admit that. It's a little embarrassing, especially now that South Park video came out. But it's some people are very funny. I don't watch PewDiePie, but a lot of the others I like.
PewDiePie.
But so, I mean, going back, so YouTube and Google obviously have a ton of other legitimate uses other than to help you find piracy online. And if you are a company that somehow convinces the majority of Americans that the only value behind Google is to find piracy, then that really screws over Google, because it limits what it can do, essentially. And that's tough. It's frustrating when you're limited by what people say is your main strength or your only strength, according to some people.
And some people try to make the argument, they're like, oh, but doesn't everybody use Kodi for piracy? And it's number one, nobody has any statistics on this, because we don't do any statistical analytics in Kodi. That's your privacy. So there's no way to tell what kind of video you're playing. And even if it was in some theoretical, way to measure it, even if that was true, much like YouTube, it's something that it still doesn't mean that's what we're for. It's kind of like, okay, you found an extra use for a cleaning material. It's really good for washing tennis shoes, but it's still a window cleaner.
Right.
That's still what it was made for. So it's just, we're not trying to deny anything. We're not trying to, be controversial. We're just saying why our group honestly, legitimately works on this software, why our developers do it, why we release it. And it's not like, we're saying we don't know what people do, but that's not something we're facilitating.
Okay, I have another comment. I'm going to delete this one because I hate it. Okay, but I'll repeat some of what the comment says. Most importantly, the person says, I have yada, yada, yada. It's fully loaded. I hate that phrase. Fully loaded?
Fully loaded.
It's not fully loaded. If your version of Kodi doesn't have videos actually in the movie library and actually in the TV library, and if you're not constantly using karaoke, and if Kodi has so many things that it can do that if it's truly a fully loaded box, then you have more problems than add-ons. Your problems are hard drive space. Fully loaded. Such BS.
Even before the context of Kodi, fully loaded is long been known to be marketing for bullshit.
That's exactly what it is. If everyone could please stop ever using the word fully loaded to describe Kodi ever again, it would make me a happy person. Because that is the stupidest phrase you can possibly think of to describe what you mean as a lot of add-ons that usually don't work.
Yeah. That's the other thing, too, I think is a big frustration for us. Even if, like, let's say we were located, because we're a global group, we're all across the world, but let's say we're located in a country where we're watching, copyrighted content was fine, or there was some exception, or we just didn't care. Even in that situation, we'd still be frustrated with a lot of these boxes because they offer a subpar user experience. Where normally the idea of Kodi is you have a library, you open a file, it works. But people are like, oh, why is it so frustrating? I have to select, a source, and it's always buffering. A lot of these add-ons, because it's not legal content, they're constantly playing a cat and mouse game with people who are taking the files down. So there's files on different file locker services, and for a lot of those add-ons, not necessarily all of them, but for a lot of them, it's a very frustrating experience. and people think that that reflects on the quality of our application. So even if we were totally fine with all of that, it's still very unfair to our developers who worked really hard to try to make things stable and useful.
Yeah. It's man, it's so frustrating. The other thing, the definition of fully loaded, at least in my opinion, let's for a second pretend it's not BS, right? It's like it means you have all of the add-ons that you need to watch everything you want to watch. It's still not an accurate statement, because a fully loaded Kodi does not have Netflix, and it doesn't have iPlayer, and it doesn't have it doesn't have iPlayer in America unless you use a VPN. It doesn't have. Oh, it might have Amazon now. I think somebody figured out how to make that app work again. But any of the DRM streaming services out there, it probably doesn't have them, which I mean, that's an important thing for Kodi to have. The fact that it doesn't have that is a frustrating thing for us that we'd someday like to figure out how to fix. And as long as that's the case, you can't really call it a fully loaded box.
Yeah.
It's a loaded with all the crap I can think of box.
And I've actually sold a couple of boxes on eBay once, like years ago. I had a bunch of Apple TV ones because
the Crystal Ubuntu chip, right?
Yeah, and I was finding them on eBay from people who were just getting rid of them because Apple TV 2 was big at the time. And, sometimes I would be easy to fix them up. And I sold, I think, 10 of them total. And every so often, someone would ask me to just download all the add-ons. And I was like, why? Like, this is, it's not like it. Do you know what's out there? Like, are you going to watch, all this different stuff? Or do you, it's just people they want all. They want it's almost like some kind of subliminal marketing suggestion that is more, even if you never watch any of it.
Yeah.
I think you can describe fully loaded as like a cable service with 1,000 channels.
Yeah.
But you might watch 3 of them.
Right. and one of those channels somehow isn't ESPN.
Yes. And the other one is in Spanish. You don't speak Spanish.
Yeah, fully loaded. So I guess that's my take on fully loaded. So let's see what else was in here. There was another thing. Oh, there is one other thing we probably need to talk about. The reason, at least personally, other than the fact that I didn't like it that they called this a piracy app. The other reason why it personally bothered me so much that Amazon took us off of the store was because I have a lot of Amazon Fire TV sticks, and they're cool, and I like the services provided by those sticks. And so it's frustrating to me that those sticks are never going to be as good as they should be because we can't install Kodi on them through the store. With that said, somebody did want to point out that side loading is still an option, and that is true. Nothing that I'm aware of has changed with that regard.
Yeah.
So basically, the way, if you have Amazon Fire TV or an Amazon Fire TV stick, your experience with Kodi should not change from last Thursday to today or ever.
Yes. And it's honestly, it is still good hardware. It's not like we're going to say, like, grab your pitchforks and we're going to do a big old bonfire in the middle of town, and instead of book burning, we're going to, we're not going to start burning Amazon boxes. And you don't have to. It should still work. It should still be fine.
Yeah. That's right.
I still have one in a box here. Like, it's unopened.
Oh, I had one of those too. I just recently set it up for somebody, but I kind of forget who.
It was $25 at the time. I mean, come on. Which, if you're ever wondering about that, one of the reasons why Amazon is able to sell fairly good hardware for so cheap is because they're hoping to make up some of their profits in Amazon content. So
yeah,
if you're like, oh, but it's so good, well, to be fair, keep an open mind about these other options like the Nexus player, the Minix, the NVIDIA Shield, if they're a little more expensive, that's because they're not trying to sell you movies and TV shows.
Right.
So they're going to be a lot more open to having Kodi installed. I'm not saying that was like a factor. I don't know. But
I can't decide on that. I'm thinking it probably wasn't. And my reasoning behind this is because they push Plex so hard, right?
The Plex, and they got VLC, and they've got Hulu, I think.
Yeah.
Netflix. Those are all competing services. If anything, I think it's anytime like a company like a company like Amazon, they still have to deal with a lot of movie studios, and I think they just want to appear kind of tough on piracy.
Yeah.
Whether it's a complaint or a preemptive move, I don't know, but it's kind of like it's almost kind of hard to fault Amazon on that, because even if Amazon itself knew this is bullcrap, it's almost kind of like the game they have to play if they want to please the movie studios and the content providers.
Yeah, it's true. If you go back, there's kind of a history of this, of groups refusing the open source project purely because the higher ups, the content providers above them, are angry about it. The most obvious example, at least historically in my mind, is Hulu and Boxy.
Yes.
I mean, if you remember, Boxy spent years pushing the web service Hulu, making it possible to use it that way. And once they finally got a Boxy box that actually had a DRM component, so they could legitimately have a Hulu player on their box, the higher ups were so unhappy with the service that was Boxy that I think, even by the time they sold out completely and are gone, I think that they still never had Hulu on any of their services.
Oh no, yeah, because they of course first they had the Boxy software, then they came out with the Boxy box, and the Boxy box, when it came out, they were like, okay, we're going to try to get Hulu on there. That never happened. Then they went total closed source with a new box called Boxy TV. And I think that still didn't have a Hulu application. I might be wrong. I think it was just Netflix. And they actually said, I think, right, that they were like, oh, open source was holding us back. And it was kind of like, was it? Because you still never got it. You made all those sacrifices. You burned all your users. You did everything that Hulu wanted you to do, and you still were no closer than before.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, got another question from the comments. Have you guys ever heard of US TV Now? How legal is that app? IYO? I don't know what IYO means.
I'm not sure. I know I have heard about US TV Now, and I think it's... Oops, I accidentally loaded the YouTube page and started hearing my own voice in my head. I have heard of US TV Now. I think it's kind of a bit of a gray area. It is a paid service. I think it's the idea, if I remember correctly, is it's mainly for people who are living abroad. And it was kind of something that was up in the air because of the whole, what was it? The antenna guys. Remember they were selling little antennas and you could access them over the internet. Basically, it's considered place shifting.
Right.
And for a long time, no one was sure if that was legal or not, but that got kind of shot down. So I'm not sure if it's still considered a gray area or not, but at the very least, it's not necessarily free content. You're paying someone. Right. I don't know how far that goes. Like if they're, because what a lot of companies will do is they'll actually set up an actual paid cable box somewhere, and then you are essentially renting that cable box from them and getting a signal over the internet because you're living abroad.
Right. My favorite example of that is the yacht companies.
Yes.
Who they do that same thing, but because the yachts are basically always in international waters, I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's legal at that point because the law is their law. right?
Yes. Although those were cool guys, and they did try to do because there's kind of like two kinds of ways to kind of define piracy almost. Like there's violating copyright law, and then there's getting something that you didn't pay for. Because you can get something you paid for that still technically violates copyright.
Yeah.
And personally, this isn't any kind of official statement or anything, but personally I feel that if you're paying for something, your conscience is clear. So
yeah, I generally agree with that. All of the place shifting stuff I don't have a problem with. If you use a VPN to pretend that you're in England so you can watch BBC, I'm fine with that. And I mean, I'm not saying I do this, but maybe I know a guy who does this. If you use a BBN a service that shifts your DNS so that you can watch your local baseball team on the MLB.com service that you paid for, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah. And I'll admit, maybe Comcast is going to cut off my TV by telling people this, but my parents have a cabin up in the mountains, and we got an unlimited cellular connection up there, and they were paying for satellite TV up there because it's a cabin. It's you can get wired service, but it takes a while and all that. So we set up a transcoding server here that's connected to our HD Home Run Prime because we pay for the cable, and it's as if we're just virtually sitting in our house in Tucson, but we're actually way out in the cabin, and it's place shifting. We're paying for the connection, and it's not like we're sharing it with other family. It's still only it's usually just my folks, but there's nothing good on TV, even when it's up there. I know how to watch it.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
they like
that's really
true. The news, and they like all that. But so it's regardless of where it is, it's still two people watching it, and still two people paying for it. And so it's kind of that's who cares. Although if you are watching like BBC content, be sure to donate to them or something, or pay your UK taxes, because
or give somebody in the UK money to give for you.
They're cool.
Yeah, I agree.
I love that concept because the BBC has a lot of great content that I would never imagine Comcast or Time Warner ever producing on their own for the good of the public. Could you ever imagine some of the shows that come out of the BBC coming from them, just because it's a publicly owned service, basically?
Yeah, I agree. They're a very cool service. So I want to go back to the question of legality and add-ons. For basically, this is just advice for people who are watching. If you are nervous about an add-on, if you don't know if it's legal or not, and you want to stay on the right side of the law, which I mean, it's up to you, but if you want to do that, then the easiest way to know whether you're cool or not is just basically to stick, first of all, with the Kodi repo. Don't go outside of it. If it's in our repo, then at least we're pretty sure that you're probably fine. If you do go out of it, only use additional add-ons that you might find inside the Kodi forum that aren't submitted to the repo. And there are a lot of those where people just, they talk about them there, and they just either don't feel like submitting, or the code might not be up to snuff or something. Yeah. And in those situations, usually it's fine too. The big problem is when you start adding repos that we don't control and that aren't publicly talked about in the Kodi forums. It's at that point where you're probably starting to skirt the edges of the law.
Well, yeah, and the general rule of thumb is if it's amazing that you're getting a whole bunch of great content for free that you would normally expect to pay for, maybe look into that.
Yeah, it's probably too good to be true.
Yeah.
The one exception to that, no, wait, the two exceptions to that are, of course, the YouTube add-on, which is fantastic. And the guy who's working on that, Bromix, who might have some other name that I don't know right now, he's awesome. He does a great job. And the other streaming add-on that I plug basically every week is Yahoo Screen. So good. There's only 2 shows in it, but they are great shows.
Yeah. Yahoo, please, or Yahoo, please contact us. Give us free stuff.
Yeah, Yahoo. We are taking requests to sponsor. We don't have a website for it. Or we do have a website, but we don't have a contact. But if you want to contact me, no problem. Okay, so it's 5:10. We've been talking for probably about an hour now. Got anything else to add, or should we call it a day?
Well, there was one other question I kind of wanted to touch on, just because another guy in our forum, or I think it was our forum, brought this up too. And he said, well, is ripping DVDs and Blu-rays legal? Mm-hmm. Because we talk about, there's a lot of people with legitimately big movie libraries. Because you think about it, Kodi is kind of a niche product, or not really product, but software. We're mostly appealing to enthusiasts who just go crazy on their media room, and they also go crazy about not scratching their discs and being able to load movies fast. So there was a time where you could buy those carousels.
Sorry, I heard not scratching their discs, and I heard something else. Keep going.
That too. They have a device for that. They had at one point, they probably still make them, those carousels that hold like 100 DVDs, they probably still make those, but ripping things to your hard drive is a lot easier, and it preserves your original media. But it's still, in a lot of countries, not all of them, but a lot of countries, is this awkwardly still not legal. Like it's legal to make a backup of your media, but it's not legal to break DRM. So it's kind of a gotcha.
Yeah.
But I think that kind of goes back into what I was saying before, is where there's times where, like, and I don't know if it's splitting hairs or not, but I feel like if you paid for something, then your conscience is clear. And I don't think we got removed from the Amazon store because people were technically violating something for things that they paid for. Like, that's not Amazon's not like, oh my gosh, someone didn't check mark this thing on a form. Oh, but no, they're worried about the part where people aren't paying for stuff. That's the concern. That's the damaging thing. While yes, it's still like those kind of things can still be a violation of copyright law, I think that says a lot more about things that need to be reformed about copyright law than it does about any kind of moral argument, regardless of how you feel about it. It's it's kind of a different thing. It's still, if you want to say, hey, that's technically still violating a law, yes, but so is not wearing a seatbelt when you drive a car. And Amazon's not going to throw you out of the App Store for not wearing your seatbelt.
To my knowledge, there hasn't been even a single lawsuit about somebody ripping something.
Yeah.
Like the lawsuits are about companies, sharing, or
like
streaming, or copying, or whatever.
They have gone after some companies that made the rippers, like Real Media. Remember Real Media? I think they still exist too. Yeah. They made a ripper, and they went after them for the ripper. And even though they actually put additional DRM on the rips, because they were trying to make everyone happy, and it's just one of those things where the content providers kind of shoot themselves in the foot, because they were even offered like a cut of everything, and people were willing to pay something reasonable to have the convenience, but it was I think they lost it. But I really think it's something that's it's kind of like software patents. It's a matter of time before we review that, and it's a technicality at this point. You might want, that's my opinion on it. You might disagree.
I think DVD Fab went that way too. They had to switch domains or something.
Well, their U.S. website no longer works. You can still buy the software, I think, but their U.S. domain got yanked, and now you have to go to whatever Hong Kong's one is, I think.
Yeah. So I think one of the important takeaways, and I think this has been true basically from the outset, is that there are a couple different issues going on here. Kodi as a group, and certainly us as individuals, and really all of the opinions here today are coming from me and Ned. They're not necessarily the official opinions of the group. Yeah. we're generally okay with doing what you want with what you have, so long as you don't associate with our name, like we said. But beyond that, if you decide to do something illegal, then if it's we think there are different kinds of illegal. If there's something that actively can harm somebody, if you're doing that sort of piracy, then that might be a lot worse than ripping a DVD that you paid for.
Oh yeah,
a very different thing going on there.
Yeah.
Ripping that DVD and then sharing it to everybody might be, for example, not so cool.
Yeah.
So the level of illegality really does matter to us. Let's see. I think. Okay. So I have one last thing I want to add. Somebody mentioned that he has an add-on where he actually tries to send emails if the add-on is included in their boxes when it's sold. He likes to send an email to those people saying to please stop, to please remove his add-on. And that's something that I would be totally cool with. There are more companies selling these fully loaded boxes than there are actual Kodi developers and team members. If you, as a user, feel any desire to actually send an email to these people selling these boxes, asking them to please not destroy our name this way, you're perfectly welcome to do that. You should be aware, though, one of the things we discovered when we were handling eBay users a few months ago was that a lot of these sellers have literally no idea. They don't know that what they're doing is causing us any grief at all.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so if you do decide to send an email, you should try to be as polite as possible, and start with the assumption that they don't know that there's a problem, because they probably don't. They probably think they're helping promote Kodi, or they're just making money in a totally legal and normal way.
Yes, people see other people do it and they copy paste and
pretty much
they figure. Or sometimes you can even have someone who's just buying boxes from another provider, and it shows up on there, and just if you let them know, don't try to ask for their heads. Just assume good faith.
Yeah, exactly. Because frankly, a lot of these people, I'm sure, really are trying to be good people. They just don't understand that what they're doing is causing a problem.
Yeah.
The other reason to be pleasant about it is because if you come at them yelling and wielding pitchforks, then there's a really good chance that nothing will happen.
Because they'll be like,
frankly, that you're a crazy person.
Yeah.
Which is usually how we handle people with pitchforks. Coming at them pleasantly is much more effective. Okay, so I think that's all I've got.
Oh yeah.
We should end with something happier.
Okay, I got something.
Okay,
new Unicode standards, which also Unicode is like little. It's standards that define what text is, different letters, and it also defines symbols and emoticons. There are new hot dog and unicorn Unicode, which would mean new hot dog and unicorn emojis are coming out in
that is exciting.
Standard.
That is, I am frankly sad that the emoji for poop came out before unicorns. That's ridiculous.
I know, right? It's a natural progression to first have something to poop.
That is true.
Before you would need the poop.
And
burritos too. Burritos are coming too.
And my positive thing is, I want to touch on E3. I am pumped as all hell about Fallout 4.
Oh yes,
I'm a Bethesda guy,
and I'm excited.
What's that?
I haven't played any of the Fallout games, and I'm excited.
Yeah, it looks cool. I figured out that I like these games where you have a base that you can slowly build up over time and make it awesome. Any game that has that, I think, is fantastic. It's why I like Minecraft. It's why I like State of Decay. Have you ever played State of Decay?
No.
Oh, it's great. And it's all about building up a base so you can defend against the zombies. Like there is
Oh.
theoretically more going on than that, but I don't care about anything except the baseball. Any game like that. If they have that game and there are zombies in it that you have to stop from entering your base, or they change it, if they made a well, shoot, what is it? Is it Universal Soldier? It's not. What's the one where they have to go kill all the bugs and they're kind of like Nazis? Like that's sort of the joke they're making in the movie. It's made by the guy who made RoboCop.
Oh, I don't know. The original or the remake?
The original. I forget what it's called, but that if they made a game like that where you just have to build up a base in a foreign land and then prevent the bugs from getting at you, that would be great. I would love that game.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, Fallout 4, I'm pumped. Nothing movie related right now. I still haven't watched Jurassic Park. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't. I want to because it's like I still have so much resentment over the second Jurassic Park movie. Lost World was just so horrible.
It was
But
bad.
I saw part of the third one the other day on TV, and I was like, "This is better."
I've been told that it's really good. Like it's one of those movies that should have been terrible and was better than it had any right to be.
Yeah, kind of like Jaws 4.
Well, I wouldn't know. I haven't seen that either, but that's exciting that it's good.
Oh yeah. Jaws apparently got progressively worse, and that for a long time I only just knew about Jaws. It was just one of those things. But they show it on TV because the rights for a horrible movie is very inexpensive, so you see it on TV a lot.
Right. Yeah. Oh, Starship Troopers. Thank you.
Oh yeah,
Joe. Yes.
Yes, Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
Classic. That needs to be like. I wouldn't say reboot necessarily because the original is just a masterpiece.
Well,
but
there's so many shower scenes in the original.
I know. Co-ed showers are the future. But I wouldn't mind seeing another Starship Troopers related movie in that same fashion again.
Yep. Okay. Well, I think that does it for us this week then. I guess see everybody next week at 4 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Pacific, midnight, I think, GMT. And it was great talking to you, Ned.
Okay,
talk to you later.
Bye.